All right, class, we're just going to finish out chapter 32. This is part 4. And in this video, we're going to cover the principal's duties and both the agent and the principal's rights and duties. And that'll conclude chapter 32 for us. So starting with the principal's duties, the principal has A, the duty to compensate the agent for his or her work and services. Okay. B, a duty to provide safe working conditions, proper equipment and safe working conditions. Letter C, principal has a duty to reimburse and indemnify the agent. Right, of the 4 duties, we haven't yet looked at the 4th one, but of the 4, this one is probably the only one that may require a little explanation. Although I believe, we've talked about the concept of indemnification previously, and I think you understand the idea of reimbursement, but let me just review it a bit with you. All right, so if an agent fronts, okay, advances, expenses, or any kind of costs on behalf of the principal, then the principal should repay. That would be reimbursement. Okay? Now, let's talk a little bit more about indemnity, just to review it with you. All right? This is very similar to reimbursement. Right? This is why we put the 2 terms together. All right? However, when we talk about indemnity, we're talking about liability. So, reimbursing someone for legal liability. So if an agent is held liable for a dispute that arises or a lawsuit that is a result of the agency relationship, a transaction can just go sour and the agent just gets snared in, or brought into this lawsuit. All right, that agent, as long as he or she was acting properly, conducting the transaction on behalf of his principal properly, then the agent can look to the principal to cover him or her. All right. This would be looking to the principal to provide indemnification. All right. And that indemnification can cover the cost of a legal defense, any kind of cost associated with the lawsuit. It could even include the liability on that transaction, should it go all the way to trial and the agent is found to be responsible or liable, as long as the agent is acting on behalf of the principal. In the context of that transaction, this duty would apply and the principal should be covering the agent. Right. Here is the 4th duty. This is the duty to cooperate. What that means is the principal should allow the agent to do the assigned work or the task. All right, so the example here is, if you hire someone to complete some work, you need to give them access to the site where the work's to be done. All right, we're going to wind. I think, did I skip something here? I'm going to skip the slide. Yes, there we go. All right, we're headed towards the last bit. This 21st slide, this is the agent's rights and remedies. Generally, we look to the law you've already learned in Business 12A, so we will try to sort through any kind of dispute between the agent and the principal based on tort and contract law and the remedies that ensue there. So breach of contract, right? Just a second point up on the screen is about an accounting. That you may not have talked about in 12A. Yeah, we certainly don't talk about it in 12A. But if an agent is supposed to be paid, let's say, on a commission basis, they can certainly ask the principal to do an accounting, right, as far as how much was sold, perhaps, and then what percentage or what their commission should be. That would be the idea of demanding an accounting, all right, from the principal. All right, now here's the last section of chapter 32. We're going to take a brief look at 3 remedies that the principal has access to if they need to sue the agent. 2 of the 3 are new to you. All right, and we're going to talk about them right now. The third one we have just talked about, which is indemnification. All right, so the first of these two is constructive trust. Do you see the word constructive here? Anytime you see that word, and you'll see it, I think maybe at the end of the semester as well. All right, it will come up. It may already have come up in the context of partnership, anyway, constructive always indicates to us that there is some kind of legal fiction. All right, the law, the court is going to be making something up here. All right. And so the constructive trust is just that. It's a made-up trust. There is no real trust that's been created. Instead, the court is going to declare that there's a trust under the law so that the court can then make a ruling over that trust. All right. And what they're using this so-called trust for is to, as a device to cover any funds that an agent may have wrongfully or that an agent has wrongfully retained from their principal. All right. So just kind of imagine the agent goes out and sells a number of products on behalf of the principal, but refuses to turn over any of the revenues that he or she has received for those sales. Refuses to give any of it to the principal. So what's the principal left to do? Has to sue the agent and demand that the court impose a constructive trust over those funds being held by the agent. And then once the court's imposed this constructive trust, the court can order the agent now as a so-called trustee of those funds to turn them over or to do something with the funds. Okay, so this is where we get the idea of a constructive trust. And make sure you understand how that's used. All right. Second remedy to introduce you to is avoidance. And here, this would be used if an agent should have breached their duty to the principal. The principal has signed off on a contract. They can now get out of it using this remedy, avoidance. So if you recall, in part 3, we looked at the problem with Peter, the principal, and Alice, the agent, and how Peter was not bound to the contract that he had signed to sell his land. He would be exercising the remedy of avoidance. Right, and then the third remedy listed here, it just follows on what we talked about with remedies available to the agent. The same remedy is available to the principal, that if an agent breaches his duty, causes harm to a third party who then sues the principal for such harm, the principal can look to the agent for indemnification, okay, for a covering over whatever costs or damages that may ensue. All right, that brings us then to the end of our discussion of Chapter 32. I'm going to close the video now, and we will continue our discussion of agency in Chapter 33.